Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 19. Dharma Uvacha. Kachit Bhadre Anamayam Atmanaste Vishchayasi Malayate Shanmukhena Alakshaye Bhavatim Antarradim Dure Bandhum Sochashi Kanchanapa.
Dharma, in the form of a bull, asked, Madam, are you not hale and hearty? Why are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal disease, or are you thinking of some relative who is away in a distant place?
Text 20. Pade Nyunam Sochashi Maikha Padam Atmanam Va Prasale Poksyamanam Aho Suradin Ritayagna Bhagam Praja Uta Swin Magavati Avarshati.
I have lost my 3 legs and am now standing on only one. Are you lamenting for my state of existence, or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat-eaters will exploit you? Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings because no sacrifices have been performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought?
Text 21. Arakshyamana striya urvibalan sochashi atho purusade ivartan vacham devim brahmakule kukarmani abramanye raja kule kulagrain.
Are you feeling compunction for the unhappy women and children who are left forlorn by unscrupulous person? Or are you unhappy because the goddess of learning is being handled by brahmanas addicted to acts against the principles of religion? Or are you sorry to see that brahmanas have taken shelter of administrative families that do not respect Brahminical culture?
Text 22. Kim Shatrabandhum Kalino Pashatstan Rastrani Vater Avaropitani Itastato Vasana Panavasaha Snana Vyavayo Mukha Jivalokam.
The so-called administrators are now bewildered by the influence of this age of Kali, and thus they have put all state affairs into disorder. Are you now lamenting this disorder? Now the general populace does not follow the rules and regulations for eating, sleeping, drinking, mating, etc., and they are inclined to perform such anywhere and everywhere. Are you unhappy because of this?
Text 23. Yadvam bate buri paravatara Kritavatarasya hare dharitri antarhitasya smarati vishrasta karmani nirvana vilambitani.
O Mother Earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari incarnated himself as Lord Shri Krishna just to unload your heavy burden. All his activities here are transcendental, and they cement the path of liberation. You are now bereft of his presence. You are probably now thinking of those activities and feeling sorry in their absence.
Text 24. Idam mama chakshva tavadi mulam vasundareyena vikashitasi kalena vate balinam baliyasa surachitam kim ritam amba saubhagam.
Mother, You are the reservoir of all riches. Please inform me of the root cause of your tribulations by which you have been reduced to such a weak state. I think that the powerful influence of time, which conquers the most powerful, might have forcibly taken away all your fortune, which was adored even by the demigods.
Text 25. Dharani uvacha bhavan hi veda tat sarvam yanman dharmanu prachasi chaturvir vartase yena pader loka sukhavahe.
The earthly deity, in the form of a cow, thus replied to the personality of religious principles in the form of a bull, O Dharma, whatever you have inquired from me shall be known to you. I shall try to reply to all those questions. Once you too were maintained by your four legs, and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord.
Text 26 to 30. Satyam socham daya shanti tyagam santosha arjavam shamo damastapa samyam titiksho parati shutam jnanam viraktir ashwaryam soryam tejo balam smriti swatantrayam kaushalam kantir dharyam mardvan evacha pragalpyam prashrayashilam saha ajo balam bhaga gambhiryam staryam atikshyam atikyam kirti mano anna harkriti ete chanye cha bhagavana nitya yatra mahaguna prarthya mahatvam ichabdir na viyanti sma karhichit tena ham guna patrena srinivasena sampratam sochami rahitam lokam papmanam kalinesh nekshitam.
In him, in him reside 1. Truthfulness, 2. Cleanliness, 3. Intolerance of another's unhappiness, 4. The power to control anger, 5. Self-satisfaction, 6. Straightforwardness, 7. Steadiness of mind, 8. Control of the sense organs, 9. Responsibility, 10. Equality, 11. Tolerance, 12. Equanimity, 13. Faithfulness, 14. Knowledge, 15. Absence of self-enjoyment, 16. Leadership, 17. Chivalry, 18. Influence, 19. The power to make everything possible, 20. The discharge of proper duty, 21. Complete independence, 22. Dexterity, 23. Fullness of all beauty, 24. Serenity, 25. Kind-heartedness, 26. Ingenuity, 27. Gentility, 28. Magnanimity, 29. Determination, 30. Perfection in all knowledge, 31. Proper execution, 32. Possession of all objects of enjoyment, 33. Joyfulness, 34. Immovability, 35. Fidelity, 36. Fame, 37. Worship, 38. Pridelessness, 39. Being as the personality of Godhead, 40. Eternity and many other transcendental qualities are eternally present and never to be separated from Him. That personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all goodness and beauty, Lord Shri Krishna, has now closed his transcendental pastimes on the face of the earth. In his absence, the age of Kali has spread its influence everywhere. So I am sorry to see this condition of existence.
Text 31. Atmanam chaunusochami bhavantam chamarotamam devam pitran rishin sadhun sarvam savarnam tathashraman.
I am thinking about myself and also, O best amongst the demigods, about you, as well as about all the demigods, sages, denizens of Pitraloka, devotees of the Lord, and all men obedient to the system of Varna and Ashrama in human society.
Text 32-33. Brahmadayo bahu titham yat apangamoksha kamastapas socharan bhagavata prapanaha sa shri swavasam arvindam vanam vihaya yat pada shobhagam alam bhajate anurakta tasyaham abja kulishankushahe केतेः श्रीमत्पदेर भगवता समालं लंकृतांगी त्रीन अत्यारोचा उपलाभ्य ततो विभूतिं लोकान् समां व्याश्रजत् उत्स्मयातिं तत् अन्ते.
Lakshmi ji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought by demigods like Brahma and for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortune of all the three planetary systems by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me.
Text 34. Yo vai mati param ashura vamsarajnam akshohini shatam apanuda atmatantraha tvam dushitham unapadam atmani porushena sampadyam yadushuram ramyam abhiprat arigam.
O personality of religion, I was greatly overburdened by the undue military phalanxes arranged by the atheistic kings, and I was relieved by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, you were also in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing strength, and thus he also incarnated by his internal energy in the family of the Yadus to relieve you.
Text 35. Kava saheta viraham purushotamasya prema valoka ruchiram smita valgujalpe staryam samanam aharam madhu mani ninam romachavo mam yat angri vitakitayaha.
Who, therefore, can tolerate the pangs of separation from that Supreme Personality of Godhead? He could conquer the gravity and passionate wrath of his sweethearts, like Satyabhama, by his sweet smile of love, pleasing glance, and hearty appeals. When he traversed my earth's surface, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus would be sumptuously covered with grass which appeared like hairs standing on me out of pleasure.
Text 36. Tayor evam kathayattaho prithvi dharmayastada parikshinama rajashrihi prapta prachin saraswatim.
While the earth and the personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly King Parikshit reached the shores of the Saraswati river, which flowed towards the east.
Thus, and Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 5th canto, 16th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Thank you, Hare Krishna,
Hare
and
Krishna.
forgive us for any mistakes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Govinda Mataji, and to Govinda Prabhu. So beautifully recited, both Sanskrit and English. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share the screen for the verses today. Okay, can you see that? Okay,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, we can see.
okay. So the verses today is actually Canto 1, chapter 16, verses 34, 35, and 36. Thank you for everyone participating. My name is Krishna Govinda. So just start with the invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So verse 34. Yove mamati paramasura vamsarajyam ashokshani satam apudan atmatantraha dushtamuna padamatmane purushena sampadayan yadushu ramyan amyam abhipratangam. That's what time. I won't read the word for word translation. It's just 3 verses. Translation. The personality of religion was greatly overburdened by the undue military phalanxes arranged by atheistic kings, and was relieved by the grace of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, you are in a distressed condition, weakened in your standing and strength, and thus he also incarnated by his internal energy the family of the Yadus to relieve you. Purport by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
I can't see a full screen. I can only see half a screen.
Okay, sure. So let me just stop sharing and share again for a minute. Okay, I see what you mean.
This,
Is that okay?
that's better. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
for bringing that to my attention. Thank you very much. Purport. The Asuras want to enjoy a life of sense gratification, even at the cost of others' happiness. In order to fulfill this ambition, the Asuras, especially atheistic kings or state executive heads, try to equip themselves with all kinds of deadly weapons to bring about a war in a peaceful society. They have no ambition other than personal aggrandizement, and thus Mother Earth feels overburdened by such undue increases of military strength. By increase of the Asuric population, those who follow the principles of religion become unhappy, especially the devotees or devas. Such a situation, the personality of Godhead incarnates to vanquish the unwanted Asuras and to re-establish the true principles of religion. This was the mission of Lord Krishna, and he fulfilled it. So verse 35. Kavasaheta viraha purushottamasya premavaloka ruchiras smitava vuchope Musamanam aharam madhu maninam ramatsavo mama yadamri itam kitayaha. Translation. Who therefore can tolerate the pangs of separation from that supreme personality of Godhead? He could conquer the gravity and passionate wrath of his sweethearts like Satyabhama by sweet smile of love, pleasing glance, and hearty appeals. When it traversed my Earth's surface, I would be immersed in the dust of his lotus feet, and thus be sumptuously covered with grass which appeared like hairs standing on me out of pleasure. There were chances of separation between the Lord and his thousands of queens because of the Lord's being absent from home. But as far as his connection with earth was concerned, the Lord would traverse the earth with his lotus feet, and therefore there was no chance of separation. When the Lord left the surface of the earth to return to his spiritual abode, the earth's feelings of separations were therefore more acute. Final verse 36. Tayo eva katoy yato prithvi tamayostata parikshit namarajashi bhakta prajim sarvastim. Translation by Prabhupada. While the earth and the personality of religion were thus engaged in conversation, the saintly king Parikshit reached the shore of the Saraswati River, which flowed towards the east. Purport. Thus says the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the first canto, 60th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, titled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. Right? We just recite the Mangalacharna prayers. Om Jnana Timrandasya Gyanan Jana Shalakaya Chakshurmanatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakavalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Ladinta Shivashikamatam Scha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhana Satadevi Paramami Hare Priya Archikapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Atitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you everyone for joining in. I offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Swami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Swami Tinamane. Natu Iskon Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane. Navase Saraswati Devam Gauravane Pachayane. Navashesa Sanyavadi Pashyachya Desatayane. And I seek the blessings from my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and to all of you listeners, that I could speak on something wonderful on the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. For now, on this particular chapter, King Parikshit, as he's traveling around as the emperor of the world, traveling the whole of his empire, he comes across the bull, who is in a very forlorn situation with 3 of his legs actually being cut off. The bull represents Dharma, and then he also comes and sees Mother Earth in the form of a cow, very distressed, and he has a discussion with Mother Earth and to the bull as well. Mother Earth is lamenting because she sees the situation of the bull's condition. The 3 legs of the bull has been chopped off by the rogue Kali. So does anybody know what the 4 legs of the bull actually represents? The 4 pillars of Sanatana Dharma?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji?
Is austerity,
Yes.
cleanliness,
Yeah.
mercy,
Yeah.
truthfulness.
Yeah. Truthfulness. Very good. So the four of them: cleanliness, mercy, austerity, and truthfulness. Now, in the Chatur Yuga, there's four yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. During Satya Yuga, everybody's very pious, everybody's worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all four principles of Sanatana Dharma there: austerity, mercy, truthfulness, and cleanliness. But after each yuga diminishes and it goes to the next yuga, then one of those qualities gets diminished. So in Treta Yuga, there'll be only 3 of those qualities. And in Dwapara Yuga, there'll be only 2 of those qualities remaining. And in Kali Yuga, only 1 quality remains. And which quality is that remains in Kali Yuga?
Truthfulness.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
So truthfulness remains in Kali Yuga, and I'll explain the reason why in a little while. So each of the the 4 pillars, cleanliness, is a consideration of cleanliness as the term is said. Cleanliness is next to godliness, but also it's not a form of just bodily cleanliness. So internally, in your mind, in your words, in your thoughts, in your actions, you have to be very clean, be very pure. It's so easy to make offenses within the mind, knowingly or unknowingly. But by practicing Krishna consciousness regularly, the association of the devotees, you get to that stage of cleanliness. You see many people, when you see the early devotees who actually joined the Hare Krishna movement, by association of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's, spiritual qualities, they were able to completely change from hippies to happies. They changed from their long hair to beautifully shaven heads. They were able to change their material outcomes: drinking, womanizing, illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and became first-class devotees. Prabhupada would actually say they were Vaikuntha children, completely became transformed by the association of Prabhupada. So within the Prabhupada actually established 4 particular regulatory principles that we should try and refrain from. And from cleanliness, one of the 4 regulatory principles that we should refrain from is illicit sex. So to avoid any sort of sex before marriage. Sex for procreation is accepted as long as you're married. And that's for the benefit of raising a child in Krishna consciousness. Even Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said he'd be happy to have sex many thousands of times if he knew he could beget Krishna conscious children. But as you know, many of you have been parents. You know, to raise a child is not easy at all. I mean, there's such a wonderful void of enjoyment having a child, but to also consider that they have to be brought up in a life which is actually meaningful in their own situation as well, to become Krishna conscious, become connected to devotees, be sort of happy in their life so that they don't go astray in any particular material ways. As you know, certain influence by materialistic people directs them to another sort of goal, which is away from Krishna consciousness. So raising Krishna consciousness is not an easy thing at all. The second pillar that's represented by mercy, and as you can see, the devotees are always compassionate. They're always considering the well-being of other people as well. The devotees are referred to as Patita Pavan, very merciful towards everybody else. And one of the regulator principles that Srila Prabhupada established to actually develop that level of mercy, in this case, is no meat eating. So no meat eating is actually showing mercy and consideration for other living beings. Prabhupada has actually explained how we should offer everything which Krishna would accept. Patram Pashvam Phalam Toyam. One offers me with love and devotion, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I shall accept. So meat eating, no killing of animals, no killing of any other human beings, not causing any distress to anybody at all. And allowing yourself to accept only things that are favorable and accepted by Krishna himself. The third pillar would represent is austerity. So within austerity, devotees perform tapasya, they go through difficulties and trials and tribulations in their life, they understand that everything that's happened in their life has a particular meaning for their own benefit. And that is actually a total reminder what this material world is like, a reminder that is full of suffering, full of dukkha. And anything that we do suffer, we understand that the Lord has mitigated our suffering by taking on certain reactions away from us. We would have suffered greatly in so many ways because of our endeavor in becoming Krishna consciousness. That token of suffering would be very diminished or reduced or mitigated. And the principle for Srila Prabhupada, who established within ISKCON, for austerity is no intoxication. So that means no sort of alcohol, no drugs, or anything that actually be harmful in your spiritual life to stray away from Krishna consciousness. The fourth one is including no tea, coffee, drugs, etc. When Srila Prabhupada mentions about no intoxication, when you take that vow, would include no tea and coffee as well. And the fourth one, which is the final one, which is the pillar of truthfulness, which is the last leg, which Dharma, the bull, is standing on, is represented by the purity within a devotee. The devotee always seeks to please other devotees, always pleases Krishna. And by doing so, they always speak very truthfully in their life. They do not go astray in any way. And in this particular case, the fourth principle to avoid is no gambling, no cheating, no gambling even in your own life, no taking chances to do something which would be detrimental in your spiritual life. So Srila Prabhupada actually explains that the last leg, truthfulness, is standing in Kali Yuga. The reason being because there is some form of justice prevalent in Kali Yuga. You have the justice system, you have the courts, you have the government who are ruling the kingdom. The good government obviously tries to see that everything is done for the benefit of the nation itself. But of course, you have rogue leaders as well, who are unfortunately destroying one nation to another nation just for greed, just for the satisfaction of conquering another neighboring nation. So truthfulness still prevails. If there's a crime committed, if there's some burglary, you can actually go to court and arrange for justice to be taken place to avoid any harm being done to yourself. And you have the protection of the police as well. Of course, nowadays, Prabhupada mentions this quite often, that some of the leaders nowadays are just rogue leaders. They do not really understand the full benefits of humanity, and they were actually disciplined in a religious principle, religious practice directed towards Krishna consciousness. This place would be so much more peaceful, so much more happier as well. There would be no requirement for greed, no requirement for attacking another country for no need at all. We will be self-sufficient in every way. So there's a particular verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam and also the Bhagavad Gita. You may have come across this particular verse. It explains about the qualities reflected in these particular four principles or pillars: cleanliness, mercy, austerity, and truthfulness. But this is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 42. Samodamastapasocham shanti ajavamevacha jnana vijnanam ashtikyam brahma kama svabhavajam. Translation: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So when you have these qualities, you know that you're actually qualified Brahmana. When you actually have these qualities, it also allows you to connect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know that if you're not peaceful, you're very restless, you're always disturbed, always in anxiety. We're always in anxiety to a certain degree, but we know that we're hard to dovetail and remember Krishna at the time of distress, the time of anxiety, and Krishna will always take care of you as well. Knowledge, of course, that knowledge is not just ordinary knowledge, but it's actually knowledge that's pertaining to the absolute truth. Wisdom and religiousness. Unfortunately, there is a lot of distortion in many of the scriptures nowadays. That's why you have to have a bona fide spiritual master. You have to have guidance from somebody who's actually seen the truth. And by having the guidance who is within the disciplic succession from Krishna all the way down to the Parampara, then you know you're getting authentic education or authentic religious scriptures given by Krishna himself. It's not just mundane scriptures just made up just for the sake of somebody's benefit. And Prabhupada actually warns us not to go to side of gurus or just looking for some sort of show or some sort of attraction to get many disciples just for his name, fame, and glorification. There's also another verse similar to this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 17, verse 16. And the verse is quite similar, but just a few variations to the Sanskrit itself. Let's just read this for your benefit. Samo damas tapasocham santosha shantirachavam malpaktischa daya satyam brahma prakriyas imaham. The translation is similar as well, but it has one extra condition. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, cleanliness, satisfaction, tolerance, simple straightforwardness, devotion to me, mercy and truthfulness are the natural qualities of the Brahmanas. So devotion to me is actually emphasized in this particular verse, because otherwise you could be peaceful, you could be self-controlled, you could be austere, cleanliness, satisfied, tolerant, straightforwardness. But if that devotion is not guided towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it's also considered to be in the mode of goodness rather than in the mode of pure goodness. So on this particular verse, where Mother Earth is lamenting to Dharmaraj, she's also lamenting because now that Lord Krishna is actually leaving the planet, and she's feeling very anxious. Because if we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole purpose of Krishna coming down to the material world, coming down to Earth, was because the Mother Earth or Earth was actually overburdened by demonic rulers. It was overburdened with religiosity. So Mother Earth was lamenting, they were exploiting the resources of material nature. She went to Brahma crying. And Brahma said, "What is why are you crying, Mother Earth, Mother Bhumi?" And she explained her plight. And then Lord Brahma actually goes to Lord Vishnu, prays to Lord Vishnu, meditates on Lord Vishnu. And then Lord Vishnu, of course, being this within the hearts of every living entity, as the super soul, he understands the dilemma. So he actually descends down into Mother Earth and as Krishna himself. And many devotees, or the people, or rather, within the Mother Earth, they actually wanted Krishna to descend as himself because they wanted to relish that pastime of Krishna in his original form. So when he descended into Vrindavan, it's not just by any old reason itself, but when you actually read the stories from Krishna book and the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can actually understand the main primary reason was to protect his devotees. So at that time, Devaki and Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, were actually imprisoned by Kamsa. Kamsa being a very demonic person, Kamsa was also the brother of Devaki. But yet, because they were actually imprisoned, Krishna actually came down to primarily relieve the difficulties and free Devaki and Nanda Maharaj. And then secondary reason was to actually annihilate the miscreants. So in that particular verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Bhagavad Gita, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Lani Bhavati Bharata Ajuta Nama Dharmasya Tadatmanam Srijamayam. So why does he appear? Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice, descendant of Bharata and the predominant rise of the religion, that time I discerned myself. That's from the Bhagavad Gita 4.7. So when there's a decline in religious practice, and that's what happens, and that was the reason why Mother Earth actually started lamenting, because the Devanic rulers were controlling the whole of Mother Earth. And then there's a predominant rise of a religion, and then at that time, Krishna descends himself. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya jadaskritam dhamma samstapanataya sambhavani yuge, to deliver the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. And that's the continuation verse, chapter 4.8. So Prabhupada actually mentions in that particular purport, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj goes ahead, and he actually explains the reason of the different avatars of Lord Krishna himself. So he quotes from Krishna Das Kaviraj from Chaitanya Charitamrita, quotes from Madhya Lila, chapter 20, verses 263 and 264. He recites Shrishti Hetu Yemoti Papadse Avatari Se Sharamoti Avatara Namadari Mayatita Parava Yomi Sabara Ashvatana Vishwe Avatari Tare Avatara Tama. So he explains that the avatar or incarnation of Godhead descends from the kingdom of God, from material manifestation. The particular form of Godhead who so descends is called an incarnation or avatar. So that's the meaning of an avatar. One who descends is called an incarnation or avatar, who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatar. So there are various kinds of avatars, such as Purusha avatar, there's Guna avatar, there's Lila avatar, Shakti Yavesh avatar, there's Manvantara, there's Manvantara avatar, Yuga avatars, all appearing on schedule all over the universe. But Lord Krishna is the primeval Lord, the fountainhead of all avatars. Lord Sri Krishna descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of the pure devotees, who are very anxious to see him in his original Vrindavan pastimes. As I mentioned earlier on, they want to see Krishna in his original form as Sri Krishna, as in Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, the prime purpose of the Krishna avatar is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. The Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium, yuge yuge. This indicates that he incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya's Prabhu. Spreads the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy names, which spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. So you can see every yuga, Krishna appears as a different personality. We all know the 10 incarnations of the Supreme Lord. In different yugas, he appears for different particular reasons. But in Kali Yuga, we're very fortunate that only happens in one day of Lord Brahma. If you can imagine, there's 1,000 Chatur-yugas in the day of Lord Brahma, also 1,000 Chatur-yugas in the night of Lord Brahma, but yet he only appears once in every once in a day of Lord Brahma. And when he descends, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna appears, he actually comes, or when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, he does not use any weapons at all, like in former avatars, like in the form of Lord Krishna or the form of Lord Ramachandra or Varahadev or Parshuram. But actually, he comes actually to deliver the demons rather than to kill him. He wants to give that opportunity for every demon to become an aware of Krishna, whose Supreme Personality of Krishna is. And he does so in the form of Sri Harinam Sankirtan. He delivered to Jagat Mother, who considered to be the most atheistic of all people, just by the associations of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were actually transformed into first-class brahmanas. They were originally first-class brahmanas, but due to the bad association, they become womanizers, they became intoxicated, they become meat eaters, etc. But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they actually transformed into brahmanas again. And we're so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada also transformed so many Jagai and Madai into first-class brahmanas. Many of us would not really fully understand who Krishna is. We would probably just carry on with certain Hindu tradition, just having the normal tradition passed on from our generation to another generation. Recently, we had a interfaith group at work at London Underground. We had different faith leaders from different groups, like from Christianity, from Jainism, from Buddhism, from Islam. I represented Hinduism. And then there was, of course, the other religions like Jainism and Zoroastrianism. We all had to have a little discussion and also do a presentation on our philosophy. Although I mentioned Hinduism isn't really a word used in any of the scriptures, but the actual word is Sanatana Dharma, eternal religion. I was explaining about the disciplic succession, how the different scriptures that we have within our Sanatana Dharma, and more specifically the Bhagavad Gita. It's also very interesting to understand that having come in contact with Krishna consciousness, when I was actually doing my talk, I realized that I wouldn't have really become Krishna consciousness at all if I hadn't read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. Even though I've tried to read it many times, I still find so many new instructions, so many new sort of considerations about our sort of level of surrender to the Supreme Personality of God, and different qualities of the Lord, the different forms of devotion to the Lord to attain to the highest level of Bhakti Yoga. And I would have been just like any ordinary other person from India coming into the West and making money, making ends meet as a grihasta. But I wouldn't have taken Krishna consciousness so seriously. But Srila Prabhupada has made Krishna consciousness so entertaining in such a way that he's allowed so much level of association with other devotees to participate in festivals, to learn how to dress and worship the deities, cook for the deities, offer everything that we have to the Supreme Lord, cooking, gardening, sewing, artwork, poetry, writing, in so many ways. Anything that we do in our career, we can actually use it to serve in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're so fortunate for Srila Prabhupada coming to the West for allowing that opportunity to be shared in such a way that everybody, not just the Indian community, but Westerners, people of different faiths also become attracted to Krishna consciousness, not just the holy name, through the kirtan or through the day-to-day activities that goes on in the temple, but just by reading the Bhagavad Gita, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we become so engrossed and so enlightened by reading the different parts of Krishna that we become very, very enthusiastic to surrender to Krishna. So just to conclude off, just nearly coming to the end, just going back to the burden that Mother Earth is facing now that Lord Krishna has descended, or ascended rather. He feels the overwhelming burden will continue again. Although Krishna came down, the Battle of Kurukshetra took place to annihilate all the miscreants, also to get rid of those rogue leaders. And in this particular world, we're actually faced with so many rogue leaders, so many people in the past who tried to conquer the earth by supremacy. We've had Hitler, we had Stalin, we had Alexander the Great, even recently like Saddam Hussein. Now the conflicts has arisen between Vladimir Putin, with the issue between Russia and Ukraine, issues between China and Taiwan, issues between Israel, Palestinians, and Iran, as well as conflicts between China and India and the border. Is never ending at all. And that's all because people's lack of religious understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we could actually all live in harmony side by side. As Gandhi is saying, there's enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. And even during the war with between Ukraine and Russia, now the Russians have actually, destroyed the ports of Ukraine, celebrating any delivery of the grains. And now innocent countries around the world have been targeted now. They won't be able to get grain like the way they used to before. So it has a knock-on effect in every other countries around the world, even though they may not be affected. Right now, this is the hardest time a lot of people are facing. If you look at the statistics, I was just checking on the statistics recently. World War I, almost 16 million people were killed during World War I. World War II, 16 million people were killed. But in World War III, it's estimated about 2 billion people are going to be killed. When you think about a population of, I think, approximately 11 billion people around the world, 2 billion, it's almost like 1/10 of a quarter of the population is going to be completely destroyed. So we have to take our spiritual life very seriously, come to surrender down to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just like the last verse, Mother Earth, she always felt the connection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because wherever he stepped, wherever he was walking on Mother Earth, by the attachment of the lotus feet, or the connection of the lotus feet to Mother Earth, the beautiful flowers, grass was growing in abundance wherever he walked. As she felt connected, she felt his presence all the time. But now he's actually left. His footsteps do not touch the earth at all. She's feeling so much separation, even more separation than the queens of Dwarka, because although Krishna would come with them, he would also feel separation when Krishna would be absent, when he was called out for duty to help the Pandavas or anyone else who was in distress. So Mother Earth is feeling so distressed right now because she doesn't feel the footsteps of Krishna at all. And that's how we should feel. If we don't have the footsteps of Krishna in our hearts, then we're feeling that loss of connection, that loss of separation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I think I've covered everything. There are a few other points that I wanted to mention, but due to time, I won't be able to mention them. If there's any comments or corrections, please do let me know. Please forgive me for any mistakes I may have made as well. Okay. If there's no questions, if there's any comments at all. Okay, I can pass on to the devotee who's going to be singing now.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we have today Hamai Mataji singing the bhajan, the lovely bhajan. Before that, we have recitation from Arya. Thank you, Mataji, when you're ready. Thank you, Arya.
Are we reading the translation first?
Yes, please, Mataji. We'll do the translation first, if
Yes.
that's okay. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I offer my pranam to that foremost of thieves, who is famous in Vraja as a butter thief, and who steals the gopis' clothes, who for those who take shelter of him steals the sin which have acquired many lifetimes. I offer my pranam to the most foremost of thieves, who steal Srimati Radharani's heart, who steals the dark luster of a fresh rain cloud, who steals all sins and sufferings of those who take shelter of his feet. He turns his surrendered devotees into
into paupers and wandering.
paupers and wandering homeless beggars. Aho, such fearsome thief has never been seen heard of in all of the
Three worlds.
three worlds. Mere utterance of his name purges off mountain of sins. Such an astonishingly wonderful thief I have never seen or heard anywhere. O thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, my life, my everything, where can you run into? I have caught you with the ropes of my devotion. You cut the terrible laws of Yamraj. You sever the dreadful noose of material existence. You slash everyone's material bondage, but you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your own loving devotees. O stealer of my everything, O thief, today I have imprisoned you in the miserable prison house of my heart, which is very fearful due to many terrible darkness of my ignorance, and there for a very long time you will remain, receiving appropriate punishment for your crimes of thievery. O Krishna, the thief of my everything, the noose of my devotion remaining forever tight, you will continue to reside in the prison house of my heart, because I will not release you for millions of eons. This Ashtaka is recited in the poetic matter known as Apajati.
Thank you,
Very
Arya,
good.
for wonderful
Well done.
recitation.
Thank you, Arya, for the translation. Thank you. Dear devotees, thank you for giving me the opportunity of singing this beautiful bhajan by Bilva Mangal Thakur, Shri Chora Graganyam Purushashtakam. Praje prasidam navanita choram gopagananam chadukula choram. Praje prasidam navanita choram gopagananam chadukula choram. Aneka janma jita papa choram choragraganyam purusham namami. Aneka janma jita papa choram choragraganyam purusham namami. Shri Radhikaya hridayasya choram Navabdu Shyamalakanti Choram. Shri Radhikaye Hridayasya Choram. Navabdu Shyamalakanti Choram. Padashritam Nacha Samasta Choram. Choragraganyam Purusham Namami. Padashritam nam cha samasta choram choragraganyam purusham namami. Aneka janma jita papa choram choragraganyam purusham namami. अकिञ्चनीकृत्य प्रदाशितं या करोति भिक्षुं पति गेहहीनम् अकिञ्चकृत्य प्रदाशितं यः करोति भिक्षुं पति गेहहीनम् केनापि आहो भीषणा चोराइद्रे दृष्टा श्रुतो वान जगतत्रयेऽपि केनापि अहो भीषणा चोराइद्रे दृष्टा श्रुतो वान जगतत्रयेऽपि अनेक जन्मार्जित पाप चोरम चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषां नमामि यदि यानामपि हरति अशेषं गिरिप्रसारम् अपि पापराशिं यदि यानामपि हरति अशेषं गिरिप्रसारानपि पापराशिम् आश्चर्यरूपो नानु चोराइद्रे दृष्टा श्रुतो वान न मया कदापि आश्चर्यरूपो नानु चोराइद्रे दृष्टा श्रुतो वान नाया मया कदापि अनेक जन्मार्जित पाप चोरम चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषां नमामि दानं च मानं च ततेन्द्रियाणि प्राणं चरित्वा माम सर्व एवं दानं च मानं च ततेन्द्रियाणि प्राणं चरित्वा माम सर्वमेवं पलायसे कुत्रो धृतो दया चोरा त्वं भक्तिधाम्नासि माया निरुधा पलायसे कुत्र धृतो दया चोरा त्वं भक्तिधाम्नासि माया निरुधा अनेक जन्मार्जित पापचोरं चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषां नमामि चिनत्सि घोरं यमपाशबन्धं बीनत्सि भीमं भावपाशबन्धं चिनत्सि घोरं यमपाशबन्धं बीनत्सि भीमं भावपाशबन्धं चिनत्सि सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं न वाप्ननो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धं चिनत्सि सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं न वाप्ननो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धम् अनेक जन्मार्जित पापचोरं चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषां नमामि मानस तमसा राशि घोरे कारागृहे दुःखमाया निबन्धं मानसे तमस राशि घोरे कारागृहे दुःखमाय निबन्धं लभस्वाहे चोरा हरे चिराया स्वचोर्या दोषो चितमेव दण्डं लभस्वाहे चोरा हरे चिराया स्वचोर्या दोषोचितम् एवं दण्डम् अनेक जन्मार्जित पापचोरं चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषां नमामि कारागृहे वस सदा हृदये मध्ये मद्भक्ति पाशाद्रि बंधन निश्चल सन त्वं कृष्ण हे प्रलय कोटि शतन्तरेऽपि सर्वस्व चोरा हृदयं नाहि मोचमि व्रजे प्रसीदं नवनीतचोरं गोपागणानां च दुकुलचोरं अनेक जन्माजित पाप चोरं चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषां नमामि. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Saurashtra Ashtakam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Hemangi Mataji. That was so beautifully sung. And thank you everyone for joining in today. And have a lovely week next week. Hare Krishna, everyone. Klosha Shabha Bhagavatam, Pancha Kalpa Durgyasha, Vipasya Nidaivacha, Bhavadevyo, Vaishnavevyo Namaha, Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for a nice.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.